Today I have Sheila Kloefkorn with me, and she's the founder and CEO of KEO Marketing. Sheila, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm so grateful that you have had the chance to sort of jump on here because right now things are different for businesses, and the world has taken such a turn. In particular fiscally for a lot of people. And there are often opportunities that aren't seen by many, but you somehow had your eyes on the prize and were able to see that there was an opening for the type of business that you've launched with KEO Marketing. So why don't you, in your own words, give me a breakdown of what KEO Marketing is?
Sure. Thanks, Phillip. We are a business-to-business marketing agency based in Phoenix, and our model is a little bit different than other B2B marketing firms. So I serve as a fractional chief marketing officer supported by an outsourced marketing team. So for mid-market companies, say $5 million to $50 million, these are companies that typically struggle competing against much, much larger companies who have a lot of resources to put towards a big marketing team. These mid-market companies typically have 1, 2, maybe 3 marketing generalists trying to handle everything. And today, marketing is more sophisticated than ever. So achieving standout marketing results and sales requires specialists with lots of experience, and that's expensive, and they typically can't afford it. So what we've done is put together a model where they can outsource both a senior level head of marketing, a fractional or part-time chief marketing officer or VP of marketing, supported by an agency team that complements those generalists that they have in-house. So these are specialists who really know the ins and outs of digital marketing and advertising, of account-based marketing, of telemarketing, of how to get the most out of trade shows, how to get the most out of social media, all of those kinds of things. And so what it does is for a mid-level company, it allows them to, for about the same cost as hiring a head of marketing, get both the head of marketing as well as a specialized team. So they can get a $2 million marketing team for a couple $100,000.
That's definitely a big difference. And I have to ask, did you used to run in a full-fledged B2B marketing agency?
Yeah, I still do. We still have our B2B marketing agency. And for some of our clients, I am not the fractional CMO. And for a small number, I am the fractional CMO as well. So we've been around for 22 years. I founded the agency in 2000, and we've had some tremendous successes in helping companies scale and grow over that time period.
So how did it occur to you that it might have been time to be able to create this offering? Was it due to the pandemic, and were you simply just ultimately prepared for that, or how did that come about?
Sure. Well, it has been in response to the pandemic. I had been doing it a little bit before the pandemic, and I actually started the company as a fractional CMO after having run a very large advertising agency in New York City. But we've really decided to focus even more on it coming out of the pandemic. And I would say that this concept of fractional leadership, this concept of fractional everything is bigger coming out of the pandemic, as we found that we don't need the same office space that we did before. We've found that we don't want to sign up for a big telecom contract for 3 years because the world might be different 3 years from now. And so it is the right time for an offer from our company like this, because people are trying to get more out of all of their resources. Everything is more expensive coming out of the pandemic. Hiring people into your company is more expensive coming out of the pandemic, even though it's still kind of happening. It's just a time when we've got to be more innovative about how we use our resources. And the world's moving faster, so we've also got to get results faster. We've got to scale our businesses faster.
How do you keep how did you factor in the ability to keep a full-fledged team, a senior executive, and yourself as chief marketing all together into a fractional offering? How did you factor all that in? Because that's hard to make sustainable. But I mean, I do see that you said that there's less overhead, but there's got to be more to that. How did you come to this conclusion?
Well, we were sort of doing it anyway without the name. So each of our clients during the pandemic asked us to step up and to do more. We needed to reposition whole product lines, whole service offerings. We helped a company that provides commercial cleaning all over the country, and most of their clients were in the education space. Well, most schools were closed for a year and a half. So we had to pretty quickly help them expand their commercial cleaning all over the country to other kinds of businesses. And so we helped them expand into healthcare. And coming out of 17 months of the pandemic, they now are able to go back into education as well as be in healthcare and provide those great services. So that required an executive level conversation, not just a transactional agency type of relationship that a lot of agencies have. So we've always provided that strategy, but more and more I'm having those conversations every single week, which makes me, and I'm having it with more than just the CEO. I'm having it with the head of sales, with the head of product, with the head of operations. And so it just makes sense that I start to attend their weekly or bi-weekly executive meetings, and I serve in that leadership role.
Now, how do you keep your team on your side on the ball, differentiating between because there's got to be different levels of priority, right? How do you manage your team internally when creating essentially a business within a business?
Sure, sure. Well, we when a company hires our team, they get our whole agency, so they won't be put off to the junior squad or anything like that. They get the full team. Depending on the level of an engagement, the client will meet with us every week. If they're a little bit smaller, maybe they don't have the fractional CMO along with the agency team, we meet with those folks every 2 weeks. And so we're in regular cadence, a part of what's happening in the business. And we really become an extension of their in-house team.
I see. So when you take part in these meetings, what are you looking for specifically when you're in these meetings as a fractional CMO? That does that change? Do you change what you're looking for when you're on part-time as opposed to full-time in the conversations that when you attend
Sure.
these meetings?
Yeah, it's a different level of leadership, because then we're having a conversation about how do we scale the whole business and adjust, given that they may have product development challenges or operational challenges or hiring challenges. So for example, the very first thing that typically happens when I move into this role is they want our team not just to help get more leads, but they want us to help them hire better people. And
Wow.
so we end up doing a lot of marketing related to recruiting as well.
I see. And that's something that sort of just goes unsaid and not necessarily something that's explicit in your offering.
Sure. So we get involved in a lot of different kinds of things. I was just with a company where I'm the fractional CMO in Boston last week, and we spent a bunch of time talking about product development and software development in a way that I normally wouldn't if I wasn't in that role.
I see. It's one of those things I've noticed that goes unsaid, but I used to be in a marketing agency myself in Brooklyn. Actually, it was a boutique
Oh,
agency,
cool.
and we often spent a lot of our time helping with business development, really at the
Mm-hmm.
cornerstone of it all, regardless of what role we're playing, and that kind of support is indispensable for smaller companies that are bringing you on. So it's really cool that you started this, and well, that you made it official since you were already really doing it. So
Great. Thank
how
you.
two things. If you could go back from the beginning of when you left the big marketing agency and you decided I'm going to start a fractional chief marketing role with a team that's super talented. I'm going to put this together. If you could go back and start your career that way, what are the first couple of things you would do to ensure this succeeds?
Oh my gosh. I think any of us who start a business, if we knew everything that we know now, we probably wouldn't have started it.
Fair.
You know, it's one thing to help run a big agency when you're not in charge of everything, to going to starting an agency where you are in charge of everything. And where most often there isn't anyone to go to ask questions. So something that I learned probably 10 years in, no, maybe 8 years into my 22 years, is that I needed a coach, that I needed somebody who had run a business like this before, who had been successful. And so for the last 12, 14 years, I've pretty much always had a coach. I've been in probably 6 different coaching situations over those years. And just having a group of other CEOs and a coach to talk to has been incredibly valuable.
I'm so grateful that you said that. Even someone operating at your level, where you're constantly switching between being the decision maker to helping decision makers make decisions,
Mhm.
you yourself still open yourself to be coachable, teachable. And I think that is something that anyone who's looking to start a business needs to know is the nucleus of success, right? And everything else is really learning and being an expert in your craft and your trade and perfecting that, right? And
Absolutely.
it's really cool to hear that come full circle from the breakdown of what you've done. So let me ask you this now: how can people get a hold of you, get in touch with you, should they want to learn more?
Sure. It's easy. They can go to keomarketing.com. That gives you a little bit of an overview of our services. And then if you go to the services area on that website, you can pull down and choose fractional CMO services if you're interested in that. So folks can see me at keomarketing.com, or they can look me up on LinkedIn, Sheila Kloefkorn.
I love that. And one last little bonus before we head out, and that is, if there was anything you could tell in a general sense, as sort of a framework or perspective to carry on any business, small, medium business, and how they're viewing their marketing outreach. What's one perspective that you see needs to change, and how can they adopt that?
Sure. Thank you for the question. So the first thing that I typically see with a mid-market or even a small business is that they talk about what they do. And you would think that that would be the right thing to do. They talk about the features of their products or their services. But what they don't do is talk about the pain points of their customers or their clients that they solve. So they sort of need to flip how they talk about their business and make it really clear how they solve their clients' challenges.
Absolutely. A lot of the copy is often, here's what we do and here's who we are. And that's not what people want to read. I love
Yeah,
that.
because then they're asking for people to do the mental gymnastics to say, "Oh, I have the problem that your product solves." And when you make people do those mental gymnastics, they typically leave. They
Yes.
won't look at your website. They won't read your emails, those kinds of things. So you've
See,
always got to be putting yourself in your client or your prospect shoes, not in your own.
this is just a taste of what it would be like to jump on a call with you and start to talk about how things need to move forward once you jump on board as a team. That's why I love asking a question like that. So for the listener, please go to keomarketing.com to learn more. Sheila Kloefkorn, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank